A massive winter storm that brought blizzards and sub-freezing temperatures to much of the U.S. has left nearly 1 million households without power. Over 6,000 U.S. flights were canceled or delayed on Thursday, according to FlightAware data. Meanwhile, other parts of the U.S. experienced unusually warm weather. Temperatures in Washington, D.C. hit 81 degrees Fahrenheit on Thursday, a February high not seen since 1874. The North Carolina cities of Charlotte and Greensboro also experienced record highs. The hot winter weather is in stark contrast to the cold snap hitting Southern California, which is usually warm and sunny year-round. There, a winter storm warning was issued for millions who were told to brace for unusually cold temperatures, blistery winds, and snow. We are still on track for our dangerous winter storm. Expect blizzard conditions in the mountains with feet of snowfall, National Weather Service Los Angeles wrote in a tweet. According to the NWS, the last time that Los Angeles was under a blizzard warning was in 1989. Elsewhere, the cold snap forced schools, businesses, and some state legislatures to close. Portland, Oregon, had nearly 11 inches of snowfall overnight, the National Weather Service reported, its second snowiest day ever recorded. Slushy, snowy streets caused major traffic delays for commuters after forecasters there only predicted a light dusting of snow. Portland Bureau of Transportation spokesman Dylan Rivera told local media that forecasters had failed to predict that epic snowfall. Even if we had a warning, this would have been an epic event. And now, an epic event with no warning? That's a double whammy, he told Oregon Public Broadcasting. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called in the National Guard to help motorists stranded on the wintry roads. The storm led to the death in Michigan of a volunteer firefighter, who reportedly came into contact with a downed power line. Officials in Oregon are also investigating a suspected hypothermia death that they say may be related to the storm. High winds were also an issue in parts of the U.S., uprooting a massive redwood tree, which then speared into the living room of a home in California's Bay Area, local media reported. Fire officials there said a 1-year-old baby was in critical condition. The Bay Area Fire Department said they had been flooded with calls of fallen trees, blocked homes, and power lines clogging roads. In Canada, ice pellets and freezing rain were forecast overnight after parts of southern Ontario were blanketed in snow during the evening rush hour on Wednesday. Please include a contact number if you are willing to speak to a BBC journalist. You can also get in touch in the following ways.
Stock futures fall as investors await key inflation and consumer data. Live updates. U.S. stock futures fell Friday morning as traders looked to the release of key inflation data. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures fell by 141 points, or 0.4%. S&P 500 and Nasdaq-100 futures slid 0.5% and 0.9%, respectively. The Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the Fed's preferred measurement of inflation, is slated for release at 8:30 a.m. Economists expect a 0.5% month-over-month gain, according to Dow Jones. Investors are also awaiting the January data on personal income and consumer spending. We'll have further insight into the U.S. consumer. Both figures are due out Friday before the bell. Personal income is expected to have risen 1.2% last month, according to Dow Jones consensus estimates. That's up from an increase of 0.2% the prior month. Consumer spending is forecasted to rise 1.4% in January, up from a decline of 0.2% the prior month. Boeing shares slipped more than 2% after the company temporarily halted delivery of its 787 Dreamliners over a fuselage issue. During Thursday's session, the S&P 500 advanced 0.53%. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 108.82 points, or 0.33%, while the Nasdaq Composite rose 0.72%. Even so, the major averages are headed for a losing week. The S&P 500 is down 1.64% through Thursday, and is set for its worst week since December 16. The Dow is down nearly 1.99% this week, and headed for its fourth straight losing week. The Nasdaq is 1.67% lower, and on pace for its second negative week in 3. Investors continue to worry about the pace of future interest rate hikes in the face of contradictory economic signals. While inflation remains persistently high, the U.S. consumer has continued to show strength. We're still looking down the barrel of a gun that has not come to grips with what the consumer may or may not have strength for the rest of the year, and what earnings are going to do for the rest of the year. And I think the equity market is being overly optimistic, SoFi's Liz Young said Thursday on CNBC's Halftime Report. Boeing shares dip. Boeing shares slipped nearly 3% in extended trading after the company temporarily halted delivery of its 787 Dreamliners over a fuselage issue. The company won't be able to resume deliveries until it can show the FAA it has resolved the issue. However, production will continue, and Boeing doesn't expect the issue to require additional work on the 787s. Investors aren't the only ones keeping an eye out for the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index. Central bank officials are also watching the report, as it's their favorite inflation metric. The PCE, issued by the Bureau of Economic Analysis, shows changes in the prices of goods and services purchased by consumers. January's reading, which is due at 8:30 a.m. ET, is expected to show a 4.4% gain for core PCE on an annual basis, and a 0.5% increase from the prior month, according to economists surveyed by Dow Jones. One of the reasons why the Federal Reserve prefers the PCE is because the index includes more comprehensive coverage of goods and services compared to the popular Consumer Price Index. These three companies are making headlines in extended trading. CEO Ernie Garcia, in a statement, said that over the next 6 months, the company will work to complete an estimated $1 billion in annual cost reduction. The online used car retailer reported a loss of $7.61 per share, greater than the forecasted loss of $2.28 per share, according to consensus estimates from Refinitiv. Carvana generated revenue of $2.84 billion, lower than the anticipated $3.1 billion. The company posted revenue of $4.65 billion, beating Refinitiv consensus estimates for $4.61 billion. However, Block missed estimates, posting adjusted earnings of 22 cents per share compared to expectations for 30 cents per share. The media and entertainment conglomerate reported a loss of 86 cents per share, on revenue of $11.01 billion. Analysts polled by Refinitiv called for a loss of 21 cents per share on revenue of $11.36 billion.
Stocks making the biggest moves pre-market. Beyond Meat, Sweet Green, Adobe, Block, and more. Shares jumped 12% after Beyond Meat reported a smaller than expected loss in its fourth quarter, even with sales falling more than 20%. The meat alternative company reported a loss per share of $1.05, lower than the expected $1.18, according to Refinitiv. It posted revenue of $79.9 million, more than the $75.7 million expected. Shares of the payments giant rose more than 6% in early morning trading after the company reported better than expected revenue for the fourth quarter and strong growth in gross profit. The used car retailer sank 5.8% after posting a fourth quarter loss of $7.61 per share, greater than the forecasted loss of $2.28 per share, according to consensus estimates from Refinitiv. Revenue came in at $2.84 billion, a 24% drop from the fourth quarter of 2021 and lower than analysts' expectations of $3.1 billion. Shares of the salad chain shed about 10% after Sweetgreen issued weaker than expected revenue guidance for the first quarter and full year, according to Refinitiv. Fourth quarter revenue also fell short. Higher menu prices and fewer transactions hurt the firm, as did romaine, arugula, and tomato shortages. Shares fell more than 3% after a Bloomberg report, citing an unnamed source, said the U.S. Justice Department is planning to block the company's $20 billion acquisition of startup Figma in a lawsuit. Mercado Libre jumped 5% after the South American e-commerce firm reported fourth quarter earnings of $3.25 per share on revenue of $3 billion. Analysts surveyed by FactSet were anticipating earnings of $2.42 per share and revenue of $2.96 billion. Shares of the industrial giant dropped more than 2% in pre-market trading after the company said it has temporarily halted deliveries of its 787 Dreamliners so it can do additional analysis on a fuselage component. The planes, which are often used for long-haul international routes, have suffered several issues for several years. EOG Resources slid 3.6% after the energy company reported fourth quarter earnings, excluding items that were short of analysts' expectations, according to FactSet. The company beat on revenue, however. The stock fell 4% after Warner Bros. Discovery posted disappointing results in its latest quarter. The media and entertainment conglomerate reported a loss of 86 cents per share on revenue of $11.01 billion. Analysts polled by Refinitiv called for a loss of 21 cents per share on revenue of $11.36 billion. Shares dropped more than 4% after Autodesk issued soft guidance on first quarter earnings. Otherwise, the software company beat fourth quarter expectations on the top and bottom lines, according to Refinitiv.